What's up? What's up? What's up? How we doing? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Sad Blanc. I apologize to everyone out there who's expecting me to be holding a Budweiser. But it's a Sad Blanc coming night. I don't even know what kind of Sad Blanc it is. One of those jumbo bottles that's like $7 at the grocery store. So yeah, guilty as charged, not fancy. The opposite of fancy. It's been that kind of weekend, that kind of couple weeks. Drinking $7 Sad Blanc. Got like 8 ice cubes in here. Sad boy vibes. All right, let some people roll in here. What's everyone drinking? We got a Trader Joe's Bavarian style lager. Oh, how do you slow the chat? I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry. The production value here is just through the freaking roof. But that's kind of what gives Hops with Pop its character, right? It's just a discombobulated mess of me sitting in front of my cruddy Mac camera, drinking cruddy white wine, spewing takes. PBR, love PBR. Golden Road, Big Hazy Wolf. Golden Road's a great brewery. Lorenzo's drinking Pedialyte. Hurting a little bit. Ross is drinking Mezcal. Got some hot tea for Alvin. A little Topo Chico. Tide Pods and bleach. That doesn't sound healthy. But listen, man, you do you, Mr. Hey Hey 0701. We got some Sprite with ice. That sounds super refreshing. Toothpaste. Cool. What kind? Aquaphor? Colgate? Crest? Need a brand. Bourbon and water. Nice. What kind of bourbon? Got an Eagle Rare. Pop, in 2019, you said it was time for Phil to be benched. Do you regret that take? No. I think that's one of the best takes I've ever had. Because it was correct. And they ended up moving on from him after the season. I know he played well in Indy, but I mean, well enough. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. That's like my go-to. All right, why are we? Richard's in here. We're retreading my 2019 Philip Rivers take. I mean, he was terrible that season. What is my worst take? My worst take was like, I'm trying to remember what season it was. It must have been 2020 when I tweeted that I thought Troy Maine Pope was going to be the lead back on a Sunday, and all the fantasy blogs like took it and ran with it. And Troy Maine Pope played 0 offensive snaps. I still think about that take sometimes. You can ask Jeff Miller. I think I brought it up in the media room recently because it's just in my mind all the time. RIP to that ladybug. Yeah. I mean, listen, everything's my fault. I've come to terms with that. It's always going to be my fault. Everything's my fault. And so, I killed that ladybug and that's why everyone's getting injured. Naturally. What did I think of Keenan Allen's late tweet last night? Are you talking about the one where he was like, I just want to be out there with my guys, or is there something else? Did I miss a Keenan tweet? Troy Maine Pope is living rent free in my head. He is. Is that guy still in the league? Whether he's in the league or not, he is very much occupying real estate, paying mortgage and real estate tax in my brain. I'm not gonna do what y'all did he delete it? Let's look. Oh, he deleted it. Yeah, he deleted it. Well, I didn't see it, so I don't really have a take on it. I mean, Keenan's gonna be Keenan. I wouldn't read too much into what he's tweeting. All right, let's get to it here. So, obviously wrote my column last night. It's in the subscript or the description below. I know I didn't even look through the comments because I can guarantee that people are just shredding me in there. But my biggest takeaway off the game was that there's a difference between excuses and explanations, right? And I commend all the Chargers for saying the right things publicly and saying that we're not going to make excuses, but you have to sit there and you have to explain what's happening here, particularly offensively in the second half. And the only way I can explain it, and there are other factors here, right? I think that Joe Lombardi and Brandon Staley, who was involved in the offensive plan, they leaned a little bit too heavily into the run game. Obviously, all of those first down runs were pretty disastrous besides that one, Eckler pitch for 12 yards. Otherwise, I mean, their final 6 first downs, they gained negative yardage, and there's stuff in the scheme, some of those, kind of creative play action bootleg type deals where they can get guys out in space, whether that's a tight end, whether that's, they run a lot of those to Mike Williams. Something on first down, even a screen, something on first down that's not a run that, you can get some positive yardage with, and like that to me, like, okay, I can understand that the criticisms of that play calling. But like I don't think the reason the offense has struggled in the second half was primarily because of the play calling. It's because of these injuries. And so I'm not in the excuses business. I don't really care about what we label it. The explanation for what's going on with the offense is that they are like significantly injured. When you're down your top 2 receivers, when you're onto your third string tight end as your top tight end option, when you're down both of your starting tackles, like it's not going to look great, and it's going to be really tough sledding against a defense that's that good. And so you get behind the sticks on first down. They averaged over 10 yards distance to gain on second downs in the second half. And you get in those situations, and all of a sudden the 49ers front seven can pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. They can set Fred Warner on some of these, designer blitzes on the interior, and the protection just didn't hold up. And like we kind of expected that coming into the game, right? Like you know that that the 49ers are gonna match Nick Bosa up with Foster Sorrell, I should say, apologies. And that's a matchup that they really like. And like early on in the game when they were accessing the deep part of the field, they were able to get some chips on the edge, but you get into those third and longs and you can't sit back and max protect because you need to have receivers out on routes to give yourself options in those situations. And, the protection did not hold up in those third downs. Like offensively, it was first down efficiency was atrocious. We can attribute some of that to play calling. And then on third downs, the protection either didn't hold up or some of these receivers that were out there weren't creating separation. Defensively, like, man, I watched the TV. Ugh, Sub Blanc burps. I watched the TV copy back. The film isn't up on Game Pass yet, and I'll obviously have a film review this week. But like defensively, I thought it was an outstanding game. I mean, the way those guys battled, like, and obviously these 2 injuries today. If you didn't see, Christian Covington has a torn pec. He's likely out for the season. He got hurt early in that fourth quarter, and then Otidio Albania is out for the season with a ruptured patellar tendon, which is just brutal considering where that defensive line is at. But Tito goes down in the first half. Covington goes down early in the fourth quarter. They have 3 healthy defensive linemen, so they couldn't even get to a lot of the packages that they were playing early in this game where they had the 4 interior defensive linemen. It was a package that they showed last week where they put Derwin on the edge with Khalil on the other side, and then had 4 interior defensive linemen. It was something that they conjured up during the bye week as a way to sort of mitigate some of these explosive runs, and they couldn't even get to those packages because they didn't have enough defensive linemen. But despite these injuries, I thought that they really battled in run defense. They didn't give up a run over 15 yards, and I know it wasn't like the prettiest thing in the world, but they only gave up 4 yards per rush in design rushes on 38 design rushes. I mean, these guys were exhausted at the end of that game. Braden Fajoko played 18 snaps in the fourth quarter of a possible 25. Morgan Fox played 20 of a possible 25. Sebastian Joseph Day played 21 of a possible 25. Like, you don't see those types of numbers with defensive linemen. You're rotating those guys in and out. And I just have to give those three guys a ton of credit for the way they played in this game and the way they battled down the stretch. I thought the tackling on the second and third level was good. You know, when you're not giving up a run over 15 yards, it means that, yeah, you might be getting beat at the point of attack, but you're really tackling well in those areas to prevent the catastrophic explosives. We saw great tackling from Drew Tranquil, aside from that one third down conversion. Great tackling from Derwin. Nas Adderley made some tackles. Even Kenneth Murray, I thought, tackled well on some of those runs. And then they even got Kenneth out in the edge sometimes, just mixing up their personnel packages, mixing up formations, just trying to keep the 49ers off balance. The run defense plan was fantastic, and it was executed pretty well. The issue defensively in that second half was third downs, and it's been a story for this team this season where, you know, these third and longs, they just can't get off the field. So they give up, you know, the 3rd and 8 to Juwan Jennings on that touchdown drive where he is able to get away from Drew Tranquil. Bad missed tackle there, conversion. They give a 3rd and 12 to George Kittle in the first half where Mike Davis got kind of pushed to the line of scrimmage, disrupted his coverage. Kittle makes his only catch of the game, that 3rd and 12. There was that 3rd and 9 conversion to Brandon Ayuk along the sideline where Khalil Mack was like very obviously held on an interior rush against the 49ers right guard, Spencer Burford. I'm botching that. Spencer Burford. And he got held. They didn't call it, and that gave Garoppolo time to hit Ayuk over there. And then, you know, 3rd and 10, 49ers are driving. You know, Staley's looking for a spark. He's looking for a splash play to change that drive, and he calls a cover 0 blitz. Nas Adderley and Derwin James are both coming up in the middle. They're in sort of a designer dime package, and the Niners picked it up well. Garoppolo hung in there, delivered off his back foot, hit Ayuk on a crosser. He got inside of Bryce Callahan, and then, you know, gets down to the 2-yard line, and then the Chargers get caught in a substitution there, and McCaffrey scores. So, you know, they had opportunities to get off the field, but, you know, you play 41 snaps in the second half, and, like, you know, I know that we all want to, like, you know, feel like these guys operate in a vacuum and they're like some of the best athletes in the entire world, but they were dog tired at the end of that game, and it showed. Despite that, though, they still gave the offense 2 opportunities with the ball, and that goal line stand after the turnover on downs was just, I think, just shows you, you know, how hard these guys are playing and what kind of culture Brandon Staley is building. And I know you guys are going to say, oh, this is ridiculous, but, like, go watch those 3 downs. Go watch how hard Braden Fajoko, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Morgan Fox are fighting on the interior on those 3 plays to prevent the 49ers from scoring a touchdown and ending that game. Like, that tells you everything you need to know about how bought in these players are to what Brandon Staley is coaching and the culture he's trying to build. And that's how I feel. And I know a lot of you guys are going to disagree, but that's sort of where I'm at with it. But yeah, like, I tweeted it right when the game ended, and I kind of stick with that take. Like, the defense played well enough to win 100% in this game, and just offensively, they could not get anything going in the second half. And, like, you know, like I said, we can pin some of it on play calling, but that's not the main reason here. Like, it's injuries, and, like, you know, in those moments late in games in the NFL, you need matchup players. You need guys that are going to win matchups. You need Keenan Allen. Think about how many big plays Keenan Allen has made late in games. Think about how many massive plays Mike Williams has made late in games, whether that's on go balls down the sideline, making these acrobatic catches, or on these slants like he did in that Raiders game in the fourth quarter and overtime. Like, you need those players on the field. And when it's like Justin Herbert's dropping back there, he's under pressure, and he's got, you know, Michael Bandy, he's got Trey McKitty, like, those guys are not going to win those matchups in crunch time. They just did not have enough juice in crunch time to execute those drives late in games. And they left some points on the board in the first half. Trey McKitty dropped what probably would have been a touchdown. I thought Palmer was open on that seam ball on that 3rd and 7. Justin Herbert overthrew him, which I really thought was Justin's only, like, bad throw of the game. So yeah, just a word vomit of takes, but we can get to questions now. Yeah, guilty as charged. I assume that's Steven. Talk about the wide receiver depth. Bambi on the outside isn't a fit. Yeah, he can't separate on the outside, and they're trying to make it happen. He just doesn't have that type of skill set. You know, if he's going to have an NFL career, it's going to be as a slot guy, and pretty much exclusively as a slot guy. So I think some of it, as far as Moore and Doss, I think a lot of that is related to, the run blocking, which we've talked about. The run blocking from the receivers has been an issue, and Jason Moore is like a pretty solid run blocker, just with, starting with his size, but just also the want to, physicality, those types of things. It feels like that's what they're looking for at that spot is run blocking. But you know, here's where I'm at with it. Like yeah, I agree with you. Like, why not give John Hightower a chance? But like, is John Hightower going to be the difference? Is he going to give you more value than these other guys in areas that maybe the average fan wouldn't notice as much? I don't know. Like at this point, you kind of have to try what you can. You know, they signed him. They obviously like something about him. Obviously that speed is there. So we'll see if they give him a shot. But I think with more specifically, like what I've seen on film from him over his time with the Chargers is that he's a decent run blocker, and I think that's probably why he's getting the leg up right now. Benjamin on waivers, nah. The Chargers are fine at running back. Their issue is not at running back. Like we've seen Spiller with some juice. Josh Kelly is getting real close. He's going to miss this week on IR, but I think he's going to be ready as soon as the 4 games are up. So once they get Josh Kelly back, then you can sort of decide between Spiller and Michelle. Got Roundtree too. I don't know if Benjamin is the difference for the offense. Predicted acquisitions this week. I was gonna look through that actually tomorrow just to see. They're gonna call up Gio Gaziano, and then we'll see sort of what happens. I don't have any names I can throw out right off the bat, but it feels like they are gonna have to sign 2 defensive linemen. But maybe they only go with one for now and then see how it goes. Gaziano will get them to 4 on the active roster, sign one more, and then see. Rochelle. I mean, they moved on from Isaac Rochelle just because he wasn't really a scheme fit. Rochelle's really like a 4-3 defensive lineman, hand in the dirt guy. He's not he's not the type of like sturdy, large interior guy that they're sort of looking for. Yeah, you throw Linval out there. I don't know if Linval even wants to play. I don't really know anything about that, but wouldn't shock me, because they loved the way he played last year. Just it was an injury situation with him. Okay. Staley dealt with the same amount of injuries that Lombardi did. Staley did the job. Lombardi did not. It's clear Lombardi is not a good play caller. Stop excusing his mediocrity, Popper. Okay. Are you listening? Like, do you people listen? Like, you come on this stream to listen to me talk about the Chargers. Listen to what I'm saying, okay? Use these. They're called fucking ears. I said that you can criticize the play calling. I said that explicitly, okay? But what I'm telling you is that the primary issue is not the play calling. The primary issue is the talent that they're working with. You can believe me and understand what's actually happening on the football field, or you cannot believe me and decide to ignore what's actually happening on the football field. Was the play calling good enough in the second half? No. Can you criticize it? Yes. Was it the primary reason that the Chargers scored 0 points and only had 52 yards in the second half? No, it was not. It was not. It was execution and talent. That's what it was. So there you go. Jeremy Jones says, Popper, if you ever need a mod, anoint me. I will wield the holy Dan hammer of Daniel Popper with wisdom and patience. I don't think we need wisdom and patience. I apologize to all the kids out there for dropping an F bomb. Any info on Parham? Staley said that he's still a ways away, so it sounds like a pretty significant re-aggravation of that hamstring injury, and we'll see if he can make it back this season. Who is closer to coming back, Keenan or Mike? I kind of wrote about that in my final thoughts. Like personally, I think Mike probably has a better chance of playing this week than Keenan, but we'll see how practice looks on Wednesday. Pipkins expected to practice this week. What did I write? This is what happens when I'm running on 2 hours of sleep. Usually I can just pull this stuff off the top of my head. Pipkins. This is a direct quote from Staley. Pipkins is going to be day-to-day with his knee. He did his workout pregame. Really proud of him that he tried to give that thing a go. Did a great job last night for Foster. I think you'll see him at some point in practice this week. There you go. Yeah, if anyone can tell me how to slow the chat down, I'll do it. I don't know how to do it. Damn. Sav Blanc stream's getting spicy. Yeah. Richard Harrison says too electric for the slow chat. The vibe is chaos. That's what we're doing here. I don't want some slow chat, moseying along, all relaxed. We're about chaos. We're about spice, and we're about takes. That's what Hops with Pop is all about. Yeah, so Joshua Kelly, just to be clear here, I fully expect him to be back after he sits out his fourth game. So when you get placed on IR, you have to miss a minimum of 4 games. He heard it in that Broncos game, and so week 7, week 9, week 10, week 11 would be 4 games, and then he'd be able to return for week 12, which is Thanksgiving. Let's ban someone. What if I just stop banning, and if I see a dumb comment, I just go off on them like I just did? I feel like that will preclude more dumb comments if I just roast you on the stream as opposed to banning you from the chat. Someone mentioned Slater has a chance to come back before the playoffs. Yeah, that's in play. It's not a regular season deal, but he could come back before if they make the playoffs, he could be back for that. It's an interesting question. So when Staley was hired, there's a lot of talk about how he'd help Justin develop because he has a QB. He was a QB that had a defensive mindset. Have you seen his impact on the offense? Is he why Justin plays safe? No, I think that's just how Justin operates. Like he is, to a degree, a risk-averse quarterback. It's part of what makes him great is that he's an excellent decision maker. He's excellent at avoiding negative plays, particularly sacks. But it also can limit him in terms of pushing the ball downfield and taking risk. Not always. I mean, you see him do these things like that throw to Carter on the crosser where he's moving left and throws into a tight window. Like he'll make those throws, but he is like relatively risk adverse as compared to a Josh Allen and the way he plays. And so I don't think that's really related to the coaching staff. I think that's just sort of inherent to how Justin plays. Last year we saw great strides. Obviously, this year I think it's hard to really gauge Justin's development because his injury and because of all the injuries around him. And like, I know that you guys are going to get frustrated with me continuing to talk about this, but like, again, excuses and explanations are two different things. And like, if you want to explain what's going on with Justin Herbert, if you want to explain what's going on with the offense, like, there's obviously layers to it, but like, the biggest layer and the top layer on this all is that they're down all of these players. I mean, you guys all saw my tweet. You're down both your starting tackles, top two receivers, down your top two tight ends. Like, that stuff adds up. And it's really hard to be an efficient, effective offense when you have that amount of players injured and not on the field. And so it's hard for me to say, yes, like, this is my clear read on Justin Herbert's development in year three, because not only was he injured and that limited him significantly through the first half of the season, but all of the most important players in the offense are injured as well. And even the guys that have come back were injured earlier, whether it was Corey Linsley or Josh Palmer. So I can't give you a clear answer. I think we're going to get a better idea in the second half of the season here now that Justin is healthy, but still, it's going to be hard to gauge it just because of all these missing pieces. And like, I feel like the conversation has to be centered there. Like, if you're talking about the Chargers offense and you're not talking about injuries, then you're not having a conversation that's based in reality. Like, you're not developing takes that are actually like projectable for this offense moving forward. You can sit there and you can rip it, you can criticize it, and like, I understand some of it, but if you're not criticizing and ripping it while also discussing it in the context of injuries, then I just don't think it's a worthwhile conversation to have. Why aren't they going after Odell? I think it's a money thing. Um, there's some other stuff there, in terms of play style, personality, stuff like that. But like, I don't think they could fit him into the cap this season. And if they did fit him into the cap this season, he would have a pretty large cap hit next year. Talking about injury prone player, like, it might cure some issues this year, but I would just be I'd be curious how they're going to fit it in next year. Like, they've got some cap decisions to make next year. They're 3 million over right now. Justin might get his contract extension after the season. We'll see. Um, obviously it takes two sides to get that deal done. But yeah, like, they're already gonna have to cut players to get under the cap, whether that's Keenan Allen, whether that's Michael Davis, whether that's Matt Filer. Like, they have options, but adding that type of money now is gonna, make that navigation in the offseason even more difficult. They did go after Elijah Moore, but the Jets weren't trading him. So, and also, like, I wrote about this, that um, right, he's upset with his targets and his playing time and the number of balls he's getting. And so you bring him in during the trade deadline. It takes him 2 to 3 weeks to like even, scratch the surface of learning a really complex offense. By the time he can like function, you have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back, and he's like, what, the fourth, probably the fifth option at receiver behind, Mike and Keenan and Austin and Gerald Everett. And he's probably getting the same number of balls that he was getting in New York. And so now you've just brought in a guy that's going to be upset with his target share the same way he's upset in New York. So that's part of it too. So people are asking who the run game coordinator is. There isn't a guy. Nobody is in the role that Frank Smith was in last year. So, Brendan Nugent was signed as and hired as the offensive line coach. Last year, Frank Smith was offensive line and run game coordinator. So, I mean, it's kind of all just like labels. I mean, the same people are involved in the run plan. Joe Lombardi as offensive coordinator, Brendan Nugent as offensive line coach, Kevin Koger as tight ends coach, Derek Foster as running backs coach. Like, it's the same people, you know, that are involved in that. But yeah, I mean, listen, like, Chargers are 32nd in rushing DVOA. I think the blocking from the tight end hasn't been good enough. The blocking from the receivers hasn't been good enough. Your injuries at tackle. But the interior of the line is playing together, and you drafted Zion Johnson in the first round, expecting that to really elevate the rushing attack, and it just hasn't happened so far this season. I think the frustrating part is, Joshua Kelly was really starting to find his stride right before he got hurt. Like that Cleveland game, I think we saw Joshua Kelly playing the best football he's ever played as a Charger. And then the next game, he gets hurt early in that game on like a freak play on a kickoff return where he gets rolled up on his knee, sprains his MCL, and he's out 4 weeks. Like that to me is part of it, because it felt like him and Austin are like a really perfect pairing, you know, with the way Kelly runs downhill, big, physical, willing to go hit people. Austin also has that physicality, but just a little bit different running style. And then you felt like it was gonna. You felt like he was gonna get it going there and be able to spell Austin. And so I think that disrupted things a little bit. But I think the number one reason for the rushing offense, failing to find its consistency, to me, is just blocking from the tight ends. Like it hasn't been good enough, and they're really relying on Trey McKitty taking a big step because you signed Gerald Everett as your number one tight end. Like he's not a blocker. A lot of times he looks lost out there on run plays. The timing is really off when he's being asked to move across the formation on split zone and stuff like that. It's just not his forte. There's things that he does well and things that he does not so well. There's strengths and weaknesses with every player, but you go and you get him as your number one tight end. Donald Parham is your number two tight end. He's been injured. You're really banking on Trey McKitty, really becoming a bona fide NFL blocker, and that hasn't happened this season. So what's going on in the chat? You say the play calling should be criticized, then continue not to criticize it. I did criticize it. I said that they called all these first down runs. I mean, did you join the stream late? It's not my fault. The first down runs it backfired the way that they decided to consistently, lean on the first down runs. I mean, I said that the final 6 first downs of the game, they had negative yardage overall. Like I felt like they could have. I talked about all this already. I don't know why I'm retreading this, but they, I felt like they could have got more creative there on first downs, whether it's a screen, play action boot, something like that, just to shift the pocket, and try and engineer a productive gain on first down. I thought that I would have liked to see some more creativity in that area, and they just decided against it and didn't call those plays. And I thought that was a mistake. So there's your criticism. I think it's fair, but I don't think it's the primary issue why the offense struggled. No comp pick for Tillery. So that was another reason why the Chargers, were trying to hang on to him. He was going to provide them with defensive line depth. And then, if he did walk after the season, which was likely considering that they declined his option, he was going to factor into the comp pick formula. But if you cut a player or waive a player, he does not factor into the comp pick formula. That's only when he completes his contract. And so Tillery did not complete his contract and therefore is not involved in the comp pick formula. How come every other team blocks a punt at the TD and we block a punt and it still goes 25 yards? That's because I killed the ladybug, unfortunately. So sorry about that. It's all my fault, guys. What's that quote that's on the Statue of Liberty? Like, give me your weak and give me your hungry. That's me. Give me your pain. Give me your suffering. Put it on my shoulders and I will wear it with pride. Let's name the ladybug. Best name for the ladybug that I accidentally murdered in training camp gets a shout out. Kareem, that made me laugh, but I'm not gonna say it out loud. All right, Lenny. I don't love that. The ladybug's name is IR. I kind of like that. All right, we're naming the ladybug IR. Shout out to DZ Bolt. The ladybug's name is IR. Yes. IR the ladybug. May she rest in peace, or he or they. A ladybug tattoo. Not that committed to the bit, guys. Not that committed to the bit. Steichen as a play caller next year. You guys are too funny. You guys all ran Shane Steichen out of town. I'm sitting here being like, hey, Anthony and Shane and Pep Hamilton deserve a lot of credit for Justin's development. You guys ran him out of town. You were ecstatic that that guy was leaving. And now that he all of a sudden it's coming together in Philadelphia, you want him back as the play caller. You guys are all lying. No one loved Shane. No one. I'm calling BS on every single one of you in the chat. The next thing all of you are going to tell me is that you thought Justin Herbert was going to be an elite quarterback coming out of college. Yeah, all of you. Oh yeah, loved Justin Herbert. Big fan. Definitely wanted him over Tua. You guys are something else. You got a Steichen tattoo? I don't even know. Yeah. Okay. The Oregon fans in the chat believed in Herbert. I will give them that. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I think it was this last draft. I screenshotted. I went back in all my mock drafts and I screenshotted all the Herbert haters. Not all of them, because there was like more than I could screenshot. I did a thread of like 15 tweets of people just losing their minds about how could you have this mock to Justin Herbert? He's not going to be successful. See, this is the difference. You guys get to go in these YouTube chats and spew your takes, and no one ever calls you out on it. Now, me, I've had one bad take, and it was Troy Maine Pope, and I've never lived it down. And this is the life of a takesman. Any news on Bosa? Nothing new. It's basically like they're just waiting for him to be ready to come back to practice, and so I'll obviously have an update when there's more on that, but it doesn't seem like it's this week. I went through the calendar. The surgery was September 29th. Staley said 6 to 10 weeks initially. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 weeks was last week. This week is the 7th week. Next week would be 8 weeks. So 10 weeks would be December 8th. And I think like the Miami game, is that the week 14? Like I kind of got a good feeling about the Miami game. Yeah. That December 11th game, I think that's reasonable. What's the situation at safety? JT started and never got back in the game. So basically, and I wrote about this for the final thoughts, which will be up tomorrow morning. So a lot more detail in there. But basically, Staley was just trying to like throw as much shit at the 49ers as possible, from formations, from personnel packages, just as much different shit as he could do. So he was moving pieces all over the place. I think he threw that package out there on first down to start the game, where you had JT Woods and Nas Adderley at safety, and then you basically had Derwin playing linebacker. So you had three inside linebackers. So you had Derwin, Drew, and Kenneth, and then you basically had a 4-man front, like a classic like 4-3, like Gus Bradley used to play, where you have the 2 interior defensive linemen, 2 edge rushers. And so they threw that out in the first play just to be like, oh, look at this shiny thing. Now you have to prepare for it. And then they kind of only went back to it a few more times over the rest of the game, but they just wanted to show that early so that Kyle Shanahan had to prepare for it and had to take time to be like, how are we going to attack this specific defense that they haven't shown on film all year, with this player in JT Woods that they haven't shown on film all year. And so it was just that sort of that chess game. And then they only went back to it a couple times, later in the game. So that's the reason that JT Woods started the game. But yeah, I wrote about it more tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Bring Gus back. Miguel, you're the same guy who was talking about Shane Steichen. You guys are something else. How much of an effect do you think Herbert's injury is still having on him? I think very minimal. I think the Falcons game was as much evidence as I needed to see that Herbert was really close to being healthy. And then I think you make a great point. The fact that they were willing to sneak him in short yardage situations is a pretty good indication of where he's at, health wise. From the rib stuff. Kicker controversy? No, it's gonna be Dustin Hopkins when he's healthy. As great as Cameron Dicker has kicked, I think Dustin Hopkins has earned that. What's my opinion on Richard Rodgers? He's a reliable veteran, played a lot of football, and he's gonna have a big role here now. Which with Gerald out, Donald's on IR, and so he's the number 2 tight end, maybe the number 1 passing tight end in that phase. Just with the way Trey McKitty has played and some of the inconsistencies. So, like starting him, like I don't, depends what package they come out with. If they come out in 12 personnel, they'll only need 2 tight ends. If they come out in 11 personnel, I think it's still going to be Trey McKitty, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up playing more snaps than Trey McKitty in the KC game. Do you think I think the hit warranted an ejection? 100%. Yeah, I rewatched it today. 100%. I mean, it's textbook. Bryce says, "I have faith in McKitty." There you go, Bryce. State your. This is a great comment. Okay, state your take. 5 words. That's it. No caps, no exclamation points, no million question marks. Bryce is in here. He just says, "I have faith in McKitty." A firm, strong, concise take. A lot of respect to you, Bryce, for that. Do I think it was malicious or just, the rules? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, you go watch it back, and Travarius Ward comes in, crown. Dre Greenlaw comes in, crown. I can't get inside the mind of the player and say, yeah, it was malicious. But you see elite quarterback in the open field in a vulnerable position. That's sort of my take. I don't know how you would write that on Twitter. All right. Yeah, I think like either way, like whether it was malicious, intentional, or not, like it was grounds for an ejection. Yeah. Why are you asking about like? Okay, we're gonna close with a ban. The only ban of the stream, because I feel like the chat's actually been pretty solid tonight. Miguel Santana. Ban. 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 Banned. Adios. Pelota! Every time I do that, I walk out of the room. My fiance's like, "What are you doing in there?" Like, I'm banning people. What do you think I'm doing? Who I got for the World Cup popper? I got the U.S. men's national team. Come on, lads. Come on. Yeah, I've got my issues with some of the selections that Greg Berhalter made, of course. Felt like Ricardo Pepe was in good form. I've loved PFOC all along. Some of the decisions in the forward group, a little bit head scratching to me. But, I saw a take from Alexi Lawless the other day, and I agree with him. Like, at this point, it's over. He's made his decisions, and now we support the lads. And so the U.S. is going to win the World Cup. Obviously, the U.S. are going to win. No doubt in my mind. Also, broke my heart to see Zach Steffen left off the squad. Fellow Maryland Terrapin. I covered him his freshman season at Maryland, playing for the Maryland men's soccer team. They made it all the way to the Final Four, and he was freaking sensational. Like, one of the best runs of form at goalkeeper I've ever witnessed. And so tough to see his career kind of hit some roadblocks. But Matt Turner played at Fairfield University right down the road from where I grew up. He actually is from Park Ridge, New Jersey, where I had some friends. My fiance's good friend from college, her husband used to play soccer with him in Park Ridge, New Jersey. So shout out Matt Turner. I'm a goalkeeper myself, so feeling really confident in Matt Turner. And listen, we've got some great young pieces. Come on, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Brendan Aronson, Tyler Adams. Oh my God, I'm so psyched. Serginho Dest is going to come back to form. Listen, Christian Pulisic is going to score 4 goals against England and just give the middle finger to that entire country for all the shit they've given him for how he's played at Chelsea. So anyway, yeah, I'm pumped up. The U.S. are going to win. Too many soccer takes. I thought this was a football stream. No? Is it not? Can Pulisic play receiver? I think he's 5'6", so. But he probably runs a 4-3, and that's all you guys care about. Pulisic runs a 4-4. Get him on the field. Doesn't matter. Don't care about anything else as long as he can run 4-4. All right, one last hot take for the night. I don't know. I'm out of takes. Honestly, I'm just starting to feel sad about IR. That poor ladybug. Pulisic's not 6 foot. Are you kidding me? Oh, he's 5'10". I thought it was much smaller than that. Listed at 5'10". I think Austin Eckler is also listed at 5'10". Listed at 5'8". Oh, San Francisco was good. I got up, stayed in San Jose, and I actually got to go play golf in Pebble Beach on Saturday with my editor. It was awesome. Got to play Poppy Hills. Played like shit, but it was a tough course, but had a blast. All right. We'll end it there. Anyone have any more questions? We can end it on a question. What happened? Why is the chat talking about Emmanuel Acho? What happened? How did we get there? What's my handicap? I don't honestly don't put my scores in enough. I'm probably a 20, 21, 22, something like that. Not good. All right, that's a good question. Salyer's role next year when Slater's back. Probably kick him inside, right? I think you look at the cap, with the way Fowler's playing, that's probably a contract that you could get rid of to clear some space. Um, you know, I love the way Trey Pickens was playing early in the season. I think you re-sign him, no brainer. You might be able to get him on a discount too if this knee thing persists. And there isn't like a ton of confidence from around the league and a ton of tape out on him. You might be able to get him back on like a reasonable deal at right tackle, Slater at left tackle, and then you kick Salyer into left guard. Little concern that like he didn't get a ton of time there, but like one thing I've learned about Jamari Salyer is that he's just going to go out there and play his ass off. And um, he's strong, he's sturdy, he's got great awareness. Not the like best athlete or smoothest mover, but his positioning's fantastic. He understands how to play the game. He understands how to play offensive line, and he has the strength to compete in the NFL. And I feel like he could play anywhere along the line. He could probably even play center, but I feel like he could play both guard spots, both tackle spots. So I feel like next year you've got some options. You kick him inside. They got Corey Zion, Trey, and Rashawn Slater. Like that feels like a good line to me. And then you can clear some space by moving on from Matt Filer. So yeah, we'll end it there. Hot take. I think this is gonna be a close game on Sunday. I mean, obviously, the injuries are what they are, but you feel like all of these Chiefs Chargers games have been close. Feel like Brandon Staley has put together some good plans against these Chiefs teams defensively. And then, obviously we'll see what happens offensively, but I think it's going to be a close game. So there you go. All right, guys, that was a ton of fun. Appreciate everyone joining. Column is below. If you don't subscribe to The Athletic, click there and subscribe. Final thoughts will be up tomorrow morning. Film review midweek as always. Notebook on Friday. Then we got home game against the Chargers, and that is another night game. So we'll figure out what we're gonna do with Hops with Pop. I'll probably honestly like I kind of liked what I did yesterday, just like like kind of around 9 o'clock, just send out a poll and see what you guys are feeling as far as doing it Sunday as opposed to Monday or Monday as opposed to Sunday. So we'll figure it out then. But I love you all very much. Appreciate you guys joining. Talk to you soon. Peace.